All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Norswap, and I work at HappyChain. It's a new gaming L2 that we just announced yesterday, actually Monday. And today I'm going to tell you about how we plan to improve the life of on-chain game builders and social apps, and people have like more consumer-facing apps and stuff that's not finance. So, what's the main problem that these builders face? Well, you're all pretty smart, so you know the problem is friction, and generally, shit is too hard. So if you're aiming for having a big audience, you might want to onboard people that are Web3 native, but also people that are not Web3 native. They have never used blockchain before. So if you look at one of these users, what does the experience look like? Well, first they have to install a wallet. Hopefully the app provides instructions for this. Then they have to secure something called a seed phrase. What's that? What do you need to do that? Then they'll need to get money on the chain to pay for gas fees. So they will need to open a centralized exchange account, wire money on it, which will take time. Then withdraw it to your blockchain. So if you're lucky, your centralized exchange supports your blockchain. If you're unlucky, you'll need to withdraw to somewhere else like Ethereum and then bridge it over. What the hell is a bridge? Where do I find one? And then finally, after you've done all this, maybe a few days later, then you can play the game. Who's going to do that? Nobody. If you're already Web3 native, you might already have a wallet, and you might already have some money on chain, but it might still be on another blockchain that you've never been to. So you still need to look up the bridge. And myself, I'm very much into gaming on chain, and sometimes it's just too much effort for me. And I'm like, do I really want to wire $20, $50 to this new blockchain just to try a game that I might not even like? So it's a really bad user experience. Instead, what if we could just log in to Twitter, Facebook, Google, and then just start playing? Nothing else to do. And then optionally later, when you know you're interested in the game, you might want to put some money in there. And there are ways to make that more easy with on-ramps and stuff like that. So how do we do this? First of all, yes, the idea that I sort of alluded to is that free-to-play is the main onboarding model for Web2 games. Right? Usually you don't have to pay up front, except for very big productions that people already know. And if you look at mobile games, like you never have to pay up front. You first try, you get interested, and then you're asked to pay to unlock some benefits. And even paid games, I'm old enough that I remember back in the day we would buy magazines with a CD with a demo of the game so you could try it before you buy it. Crazy that we don't have that in Web3 at all, and if we want to reach out further than people that have a lot of money on chain, then we need to have this. So logistically, how does this work? How do we get that experience? Here are three pieces that we need. First of all is a social login, so it's a way to derive a private key, so you can sign stuff on chain from your login provider. The other piece is account abstraction and session keys. I'm not going to enter into details, but the key idea here is that you want to confirm when you're sending meaningful assets to other places. But when you're in a game, you don't want to confirm every single action. So there needs to be a distinction between actions that are not really meaningful, not very risky, like moves in a game, and then actions that are meaningful, have a lot of consequences, like moving your assets. And so you need a way to derive keys that have limited permissions for this game experience. And finally, if you want to avoid people to have to bring money in to start playing, then you need to sponsor the gas fees on the blockchain. Now, as it turns out, there are a lot, and I mean a lot, of people that are trying to build solutions to these problems, right? I've counted 22 social login providers. I've not listed all of them, but 22. Session key account abstractions, I've listed like the main frameworks. Gas sponsorship, there's also many other companies doing this. Some of them do multiple things. So clearly we have the technology to do this, but why don't we really have the experience in practice? First problem, shit is too hard. So to give you just an example of the kind of problem we run into. So one thing is the docs are often not very good, or they lack information, or sometimes there's no docs at all. It's just like, send us an email and we'll tell you. And so it's really hard to design your architecture if you have to use all these multiple services, because it's unclear how they work together. It's unclear what the real properties are. And so just an example of the lack of clarity. in a respect that's very important, security for the login provider. So ideally, the ideal solution, if you lose your Google account, you don't lose all your crypto. Okay, so you need device 2FA, and ideally a backup to make sure that if you lose your account, you can still recover your keys. It should keep working if one of these 22 companies go out of business. Some of them will, you know. And the provider should not be able to rug your wallet, so it should not have custodial access. And sometimes, they always say they're non-custodial, but sometimes it turns out it's like two services that they're loosely control. And then finally, you should be able to play on multiple devices. And it should be easy and not something like very complicated that the normal user is not able to do. So we've audited a lot of these. There's only one company that satisfies all this out of the box that we could tell. Probably there's more. We just are not able to tell by reading the docs. And one of them makes it possible to implement, but you have to do a lot of custom implementation on top of it. So that's sort of the situation we are in today. Yeah, so that's what I was saying, like bad documentation, the APIs are very complex, and then making these things interact together. Often you just start building and then you realize, oh, it doesn't work. And we know because we've tried a little bit. The second problem is that most of the login providers, they work on a per app model. There's like almost none of them that support a wallet that you can have across any domains that you want. You usually have to whitelist all the domains. So for what you're building, which is one blockchain, that doesn't work. And the reason why having one wallet per, or one account per app is a bad experience is this. It just doesn't solve anything. So say you have a game on Base, and now you want to have a social login account. Like Friendtech, the sort of social project where you could buy keys to have access to the postings of someone and gated communities, they had this. But you still need to get money on Base. And then you take your money on Base and you put it into the wallet of that project. But you need to keep some money on Base as well, so otherwise you can't withdraw. So you have all the other stuff, and then you have one extra step. It gets a little bit better if you can gas sponsor, because then you don't need to put money on the blockchain originally, but you still have the problem that now you have assets in your game wallet or your project wallet. If you want to move them to another game, or if you want to sell them, you still have no gas on chain, no money on chain to do that. So you're completely locked into that wallet. Third problem is cost, and it's mostly related to the fact that implementing all these things are hard. So the social login provider will charge you for every wallet, like about 3 to 5 cents per wallet. The gas sponsorship, obviously you need to pay the gas. It's really hard to give guarantees there because the price of the gas fluctuates a lot. So the experience might be inconsistent. And finally, well, everything is hard, so your developers are going to spend more time, and that's also a big source of costs. Let's not worry, we have solutions and great slides. So what we propose is the API account. So on Happy Chain, every user gets onboarded to a unique account that they can use on every app on the chain. Right? And this account, like I said, chain level, so there's only one on the chain. We will sponsor the gas within certain limits, but enough that you can play every day. And it will be super easy to integrate, technically speaking. And then we give you a very clear list of properties, security one, etc., so that you know what you're getting. And we think it's the best trade-off that we're giving you, and you don't really have to think about much there. So why do we need a chain to make that work? Because I could say, well, I'm going to do this on Base, or whatever other blockchain you prefer, and convince projects to use this wallet. It's a coordination problem. Why would you take the pain to integrate a wallet if nobody else is using it? The benefits aren't clear. For us, it's like, well, we start the chain. It's a day one solution. Everybody uses this, so you're going to opt in. We have incentives, so we'll give airdrop to users. These airdrops are actually pretty interesting because you can only use them to play games. So we'll airdrop like very small amounts to users every day, but they can only spend them in games that have been whitelisted. We pay the gas, and because we control the gas token, it's a lot easier for us to do it. And finally, because we sponsor not only specific apps, but we sponsor the chain really, you are free to move your assets between games and to sell them, etc., and use NFT marketplace. So for gas sponsorship, how it works is that we give allowances to users, and we give allowances to projects. So because we control the gas token and we pay ourselves, we're pretty agnostic to the cost of this, as long as the blockchain is not totally full. Right? So when it's full, obviously there's service degradation for everyone because there's too many people that want to do things are able to do this. So it's not magical, right? It's still a limitation. But one thing we can do for the limitation is we have a system for Sybil mitigation. So some people might make a lot of accounts and start spamming. So what we do is we optionally let users verify themselves. And there'll be multiple levels. One level is they have a real iOS or Android device. One level is they actually verify themselves that their identity with a third-party provider. And then we know, okay, this is a real person, it's not a botnet or something like that, so they can have priority on the chain. So there's still things to do to make sure that actually real people have good experiences that are not degraded by botters and bots and things like that. So it's going to be super easy to integrate. This gets into technical, but there's like these two frameworks that people usually use for blockchain interaction, VM and errors. You just have to plug something in there, boom, it works. And of course, this is all chain level integration, so there's really no need to register with things. You do need to partner with us if you want a allowance for your project, but users still have allowance that they can use on your project in any case, it's just if you want extra. And only once you get successful and you are exceeding your allowance, then you start paying for the gas fee yourself, and then we help you set up the gas sponsorship so that you can keep that good experience. So we only really succeed when the projects and Happy Chain succeed as well. And so basically that's it, right? We solved the issue, so it's simple to integrate, the onboarding, super simple, like even someone that's completely not familiar with Web3 can do it. It's just a login, really. And everybody has a single account that they can use across the board on all the games on the chain. We've got a few more things planned, and our goal is always the same. It's always, how do we make the life of people that are building games and social apps easier? And I was building a game before this. I put it on pause to do this, and there's other people that I've hired that were also building games. And so we know very well what kind of issues these builders face, and we're always interested in talking to them to learn about that. So one of the issues is randomness support. The way it usually works is you request a randomness, and then you have to wait for some blocks, and then you get a random number, and then you can do something. That's a lot of latency, and it's a little bit unpredictable. So what we have is synchronous randomness solution, where you can just call a contract on the VM and immediately get a random number and do something with it. We also support private information because obviously a lot of games have private information. The game I was building was a trading card game, just kind of like Pokemon cards. You draw cards, you have to hide them. Obviously on the blockchain, everything's public, so that's one of the big problems. We also want to add automation that's very simple and registered on chain, so you can react to events, you can react to state changes, and you can also react to blocks. So one cool thing you can do, there's a common pattern in this game, is add a ticking function where every block, as time passes, the game logic updates on its own. And this is also eligible for the gas sponsorship that we give to projects. So that's pretty much it. Check out Happy Chain. Okay, this link does not work. I'm sorry, I didn't update this slide. We were registering the domain. But you can check the Twitter. That's live, and so we just announced, and we are just starting to build this, to be very clear. We have designs for most of our features, but we're just starting to build them, and we're hoping that within 6 months we'll have something to show you, even possibly mainnet. So thank you very much, and if anybody has any questions, I'm here.
Do you have some questions? Yes.
First one was, out of the 22, what was the one that passed everything?
Privy. Yeah.
Another question, if you have the time for it, is how you preserve fraud proofs at the rollup level with changes to the protocol.
So everything we do is actually application level. So we're part of the Optimism superchain, which means we upgrade with every other chain on the superchain. So we can't really modify the nodes themselves. We can, but it's a long process where you have to upstream a feature. It has to be sort of broadly useful to other chains. It has to be approved. It has to be voted on. So it's like a multi-month timeline.
When you said at the chain level, I thought that meant you were making protocol level changes.
It's actually not. So the chain is just an EVM. Underneath the wrap, it's more of a social thing where you can, if you want, like use your MetaMask thing and just do things normally. It's just that every user that are connected through the games, they're going to be onboarded with this thing, and so it's going to make sense to use that.
And so it's like a collapse of all of those service providers with the actual chain developers to make it better.
Exactly, totally. Cool. It's like a one-stop shop for everything you would need, and most of them we try to integrate them in a way that there's no need for you to subscribe, make partnerships, etc. Yes, totally.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Other questions? Anyone? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, there's that question over there. Last minute.
I'm running.
Sorry, I needed a moment to think. How do you preserve the privacy of your users when you do the mitigation through what I presume is a KYC process? And how does that introduction of friction jive with the bringing the friction down for the user?
So it brings the friction down because it's completely optional. So there's still a way to get, you still can get gas sponsorship and credits. But at some point, if you're like bought in, you might want to get a little bit more airdrop. You want to get priority when the chain is congested. In those cases, we'll offer you to KYC. Yeah, completely optional, so we don't force anybody to do it. I haven't talked to this project yet. What I'm hoping we can set up is a system where we actually never learn anything about the user. And I have some technical ideas for this, right? We can associate the address with an ID, and then the provider associates an ID with an identity, so nobody has the link between the address and the identity. And so what we do, we just put the address in a registry on chain, and anybody can look at that and say, okay, this is a real user, and maybe they can get airdrops or they can get special benefits. Yeah.
So as a developer, do my users go to your platform to create their account, or can I do this in-game?
They can do this. So there's a wallet SDK, so they can embed the wallet in their apps. So that happened within that embed. It's sort of like, imagine MetaMask, but within your app. And so they don't leave your domain or anything. It just happens in the app. Yeah.
And final one, if we have the time for it. How did you do the unruggable? Like, if you guys go out of business, what happens, and how do I keep my users like wallets and stuff?
Well, it's ultimately it's a chain. This is exactly the same as any other L2, like Optimism, etc. So it's still the way so this is the detail of Optimism. How it works is if we all die and everything's lost, users can still push the chain permissionlessly via a transaction included via L1. So there's still a way to exit. If we don't all die in a very gnarly accident, what we do is like decentralize the sequencer so that someone can take it over, basically, and then it's a chain that can keep running forever on that principle.
Yeah. So if the sequencer dies, you can still on-chain get access to like exit the way...
Yeah, it's exactly the same as Optimism mainnet or base, same system, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm looking we have 2 minutes. Any question? Okay, thank you very much.